Welcome to my white garden. I have been building this garden for about a year now, and it is finally starting to come together with some plants. It's going to take a while because most of my plants are perennials and they just take a couple years to really get established. But I've got some hydrangeas, some astilbe, some gladiolus, some lilies, hellebores, white hosta, lily of the valley, just a little bit of everything. And I wanted to film this video in this garden because this garden means a lot to me. It means a lot because this has been a labor of love for myself. This has been a place that I've been cultivating for just me. This is a place where I've built just for my brain break. I don't know if anyone else feels color fatigue. I have a lot of color in the garden. I have a lot of color in our food. We eat the rainbow. You hear me talk about that. And so I have a lot of color. So this white garden is a way for my brain to stop the color for a minute and just take a break. Take the brain break, take a moment to really focus on my mental health. Which brings me to what I really wanted to talk about today. Mental health and how the garden can help you. How many physical and mental benefits there are for gardening. That garden therapy is a legit thing. That grounding is serious and helps you physically. And I consider myself a steward of the land. I consider myself a guardian of the nature that I've been entrusted to protect. I consider myself a plant priestess, and there are many that have called me a hedge witch. All of those things don't bother me because I find solace and peace in the garden and all the things that the garden gives me. I'm talking obviously about the food. We love the food. We love the preserving aspects. I love being able to share with people. But the health aspects that gardening gives me is completely priceless. Now let's talk about the physical aspects of gardening, because those you can see a drastic difference in quite quickly. If you go to a doctor and they recommend garden therapy, or they recommend you go outside and get some relaxation, and go on a vacation, they are asking you to do some therapy on yourself to stop the stress, to reduce the anxiety, to help your body heal itself, whatever that may be. And I'm including in that things such as blood pressure and cholesterol, even heart disease, or there are some memory benefits to gardening as well. So I wanted to first talk about the physical stimuli that happens in the garden. So very easily, the first thing that people will tell you is that gardening helps to reduce depression and anxiety problems or symptoms. And absolutely 100% I felt that. It also helps to reduce stress. So if you're able to reduce stress, depression, and anxiety, I don't know why everyone doesn't garden. But being outside isn't just about reducing your stress and your anxiety. Those are the biggest benefits, in my opinion, for mental health, but they're not the only ones. We are in an incredibly vitamin D deficient society, and just being outside increases your vitamin D intake. I used to have a work spouse, her name's Michelle, and she would take a vitamin D break. And at the time, I didn't even think about it. I was like, well, of course she is, 'cause she's got to get outside. We've been inside all day. But now I understand how other people think of that and look at it like, what do you mean a vitamin D break? Yeah, we need our vitamin D, people. Nobody I know is not vitamin D deficient that works inside an office building. We all are. It's okay. So the physical activity that one does in the garden as well is super important. It increases aerobic exercise, the bending, the twisting. It increases blood flow to the brain. It helps to reduce your risk of heart disease. It helps with your overall physical health, just getting outside and moving your body. My kids have to come outside and move their body every single day because they can't keep themselves in check otherwise, just because they're growing. But as adults, we have a tendency to kind of put that to the wayside. Unless I'm going to the gym, it's not exercising my body. Well, you can get an anaerobic workout done when you're hauling a whole bunch of dirt or mulch or spreading around things or just walking your garden. There's nothing that says you have to be working in the garden to enjoy the benefits of aerobic exercise. So there are some really great benefits physically to being outside in the garden. There are also some mental health benefits of being outside that people don't necessarily talk about. It helps us to practice acceptance. It helps us to acknowledge the limits of our control, the capacity of our control, and it also acknowledges the unpredictability and allows us to learn how to be flexible within that. Unpredictability in the garden is one of the hardest things that I have trouble with. I'm not good with things that I cannot control, and many times in the garden I will feel like I've failed when in fact I haven't failed. It's just I could do the exact same thing every single year and have different outcomes. It's just the nature of nature. And that's one of my hardest things to learn and figure out, is just the acceptance of that flexibility and knowing that there's unpredictability in nature and just trying to go with the flow. You know what I mean? It's just very difficult for me to do that. I'm very much a control freak, which for a Pisces is kind of weird, but I am. And I think that many people like myself have difficulty being raised in the society which idealizes perfection and organization. And so it's very difficult for us to move past perfection and embrace the unpredictable and the chaotic nature that is nature, but also to understand that to do things in the garden or in life is to not always be perfect. In the garden, there are pests, there are bugs, there are rodents that you have to deal with. Food comes dirty. It's dirt. It literally grows in the dirt. And so I think that there is this moving past perfection concept that can sometimes be difficult for people. It's hard for me as a perfectionist, but it's really beneficial mental health-wise in the garden to learn and to practice that acceptance in a daily basis and have the garden be your tool for that. Gardening also connects you with the earth. It connects you in an understanding of the seasons, in a relationship with the seasons, with the weather, with the dirt. Many of you may or may not know this. In my before times life, I was an archaeologist. I was an archaeologist for a good 10 years, and all throughout college I've been on multiple digs. And I've even had my name published in a document, which is wonderful. And as an archaeologist, I thought I was really connected to the earth. You know, I mean, I destroyed it, but I was really connected. But there's a different connection when you have this relationship with the seasons and the weather, and you are actively trying to create something beautiful or something that you want to grow. And it gives you a completely different relationship with the earth And that brings me to grounding. So most people who feel this connection with the earth, slower this a little bit. Most people who feel their connection will often feel it when they go out on vacation, when they go to the beach. My husband loves to go to the beach. He runs down to the beach when we get there and briskly walks. And he takes his shoes off and he puts his feet in the sand. And he's like, I'm not on vacation until I do that. And one of the things I tried to tell him early on, I was like, you're doing that to ground yourself in the moment, in the now, in that place on earth, to slow your heart rate, to lower your blood pressure, to like reduce the stress and anxiety that you feel on a daily basis, because now you have grounded yourself. And I just want to talk about that a little bit, because grounding is a technique that electrically connects you to the earth, or reconnects you to the earth. And it's a very important process. And you can do it a variety of different ways. You can put your feet in the sand, you can put your feet in the dirt, you can put your hands in the dirt, you can just lay down in them wherever you want and just feel the earth for a moment. And what that does is electrical conductivity exists within our matrix of connections of living cells. So we have living cells and the earth has living cells. There's electrical conductivity that occurs within those things. And we feel connected to the earth when our electromagnetic field can reconnect with the living cells of the matrix of the earth itself. It's just, you gotta mingle. And it can affect your red blood cell fluidity. It can affect your heart. It can affect muscle damage and pain. It can affect a lot of different things within the body. And so I know that last month was Mental Health Month, May. And I really wanted to put this video out in May, but we shockingly lost our beloved dog, Io. She was a Finnish Spitz, beautiful dog. She was in one of my opening credits or videos, and we love her very much. She's not our first dog, and she won't be our last dog, but we lost her shockingly quick. And both my husband and I, we needed to process that. And the way he processed it too. He goes out, sits outside. He sits outside. Oh, we have a beautiful bird that's joining us. And he and I had to ground ourselves going through that grief process, because it was so hard. And anyone who has ever lost a pet or a loved one, a loved animal, understands that grief. It's a different type of grief. And so we dealt with it in different ways, but ironically very similar. And so we just, I really wanted to share grounding and the different mental health benefits of gardening, and I just had to practice some of those to bring myself some happiness. Not happiness, to help me get through some grief that we'll be working through for a while over here, but that everyone, I think, goes through. So if you're having a hard time, if you have felt that this past year has been overwhelmingly too much, if you have moments where you're like, I am done, I can't do any more of this stuff, take a moment and ground yourself. Go outside, sit in the dirt. I wonder if that's why children are just so happy all the time, because they're covered in dirt or in the sand, or like have, their hands in something from the earth. The mental health benefits and the physical health benefits of gardening is something that not many people have talked about. And I thank you for joining me on this video so that I can talk to you about that. And if you or a loved one are having a hard time, there are resources other than gardening that I would not ever want to take away from. You should always reach out for help if you're having a very difficult time or having some mental health issues that you're unable to handle on your own. But maybe some of you have already been doing this and see the benefits. Thanks for joining me today, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.